why don't you actually introduce yourself so that we can know a little bit more about you?
Awesome. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Ashley Margo. I am from Austin, Texas, originally from McAllen, Texas, which is the most southern part that you can get in the state of Texas. And I graduated my bachelor's in science, and I have over 10 years of clinical industry exposure and about 2 years of clinical research. Currently, right now, I'm a clinical data specialist with the infectious disease department here at the state of Texas. So very busy at the moment, and our department is definitely getting hounded right now with emails and things like that. But I definitely have had my share, I would say, background of the full 360 in healthcare and public health. And I'm looking currently right now and to get into the clinical research industry. We'll get back in. And so far, so good.
Yeah, and you have some promising interviews that you've done already. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because these students are going to be in your shoes
For
uh,
sure.
in 6 weeks.
For sure. Yeah, so I've had multiple, to be quite honest. At the moment, I do not have my notebook on me, but I can tell you that I've had about, I think, 5 to 6 interviews total. 2 or 3 of them have gone all the way to the second and third interview. Um, most of them were clinical research coordinator positions, but actually these past two that I've done have been for CRA. And right now I am waiting for the recruiter to get a hold of me next week for a position with Sarah Cannon. And yesterday, actually, I did my second interview for PPD with the in-house remote site monitor, which is an in-house CRA, and it went great. It's been interesting, and surprisingly, with COVID-19 coming on board, and with the different things I'm going to show you how to utilize on LinkedIn. Through that, I've been able to have the majority, well, not the majority, but a good handful of recruiters on my LinkedIn network. And so every day they're constantly posting positions up, and so I've been busy for sure. And also helping friends too, sending them over different job openings that have been popping up like crazy, and just, screenshotting them and trying to get all this information around to people that are looking for work.
Yeah, and it's interesting you said that. I'm pulling up right now
Mhm.
on my screen an interview I did just yesterday with a line manager. Um,
Mhm.
she's
Oh
from
yes, I was wanting to see that.
Yeah, she's from PPD actually. This is the one.
Oh wow.
And we're talking about she's in San Diego, but she's one of the line managers, and we're talking about the job market with corona, like post coronavirus. And we both
Mhm.
think that we're both very bullish, and you're just confirming that because if it wasn't expected to be bullish, they wouldn't be interviewing you right now. They wouldn't be interviewing anyone right now. And what we've
For
seen is
sure.
an increase in interviews during this time. Matter of fact, some of our own students have already been interviewed virtually, and the class is not even over. So,
That's
you
great.
know, basically, all the studies, the way she said it, and this was my theory as well, and it's correct. Seems like it's correct. All the studies that were being planned to start in March, April, and May are being postponed for June, July, August. And then
Mhm.
all the studies that were gonna start in June, July, August anyways are gonna continue to start. So we're gonna have like a double supply of studies when this is all over.
Oh
And
wow.
it's gonna be crazy. So people are ramping up now. The drug companies are sending out feasibility surveys to sites. They're doing all the study startup stuff. I can confirm on my end with all the sites we have. There are
Mhm.
tons of studies, tons of feasibility questions coming in. So I think our industry, I don't know about the economy as a whole. I think the economy is going to rebound as well,
Mhm.
just because of all the stimulus that they've been putting into the system. It has nowhere else to go but in the system itself.
Mhm.
So I think it's, I mean, we're in pretty dark times right now with the virus, but
Yeah.
I'm actually bullish on research in the summer and definitely in the fall and winter. So it's actually
Yeah,
perfect
for
time
sure.
for students in this class.
Yeah, and to take, to take advantage of all this extra time and to really utilize, these online platforms is a huge thing. And I mean, I agree with you. During that interview, I actually specifically asked at the end of the interview, said, I know this is a, given certain times, I'm sure you don't hear this, question too much, but I feel like it's important that I ask. And I asked her, I said, given the current situation with the job market and, just the whole global economy, I'm curious with PPD, how do you feel the organization is doing to, create my job stability if given the position? And she reassured me that, like, on her personal opinion, because of course she couldn't speak for the organization, but she told me that she felt very, very positive about job stability, because in 2008 that they did have they did have to let go of a lot of people, and that, the higher ups mentioned that was going to be the first and only time that they did it. And she said that, she feels that they've had a lot of prep time to prepare for any possible future situations that are similar, as well as she said that, as you said, they wouldn't be hiring fast if they felt that they couldn't sustain. If not, that they would be hiring contract CRAs that actually have a timeline and that they're not necessarily linked to the organization completely, and that made complete sense. And that actually gave me some comfort, of course, and it makes total sense.
Yeah, we need good news during these times, and this is definitely very good news. We just got to get over this next few weeks. Looks like these next
For
few weeks
sure.
uh, could be pretty bad here, but then
Mhm.
this too shall pass because everything does, and we'll have a new uh, research industry. Basically, we're starting over. I mean, all the studies we have been put on hold. Uh, like patients theoretically could still do their visits, but we're doing them
Mhm.
virtually. So it's not really like the study the we're not really capturing all the assessments that the protocols are asking for. So
Mhm.
essentially when things get back to normal, hopefully June, end of May, early June, um, the industry is going to be so busy. It's going to be unreal, unreal. So if you have questions, chat or just talk. You can unmute yourself anytime, or you can just put in the chat, and then Ashley will present, and I will share what she's talking about.
For sure. And as I sent you the layout, I can go ahead and for each section, I can stop and then answer any questions that anybody has for that specific section. For
Okay,
sure.
so section layout, I have that open now.
Okay, awesome. All right, hi everybody. Again, I'm Ashley Margo. So a few things I definitely wanted to cover with you guys today that I feel is super important and was definitely key component to my success so far of getting interviews and just, making an entrance on the online world. And so first I'd like to cover the fact that your resume, of course, as you know, is the most important thing with being the first gateway to, meeting the recruiter. One of the most important parts of the resume, which I feel a lot of people don't do accurately, is personal branding. That has actually become a very huge thing, a huge topic nowadays. But to first start off, I feel like one of the biggest mistakes that people make is if you are very active on LinkedIn, um, when you open up a LinkedIn, for instance, my account, when you go on and you look under my About section, I have about 4 paragraphs, which is kind of a description of me, why I want to get into clinical research, and what I bring to the table, and what are my core competencies. A lot of people tend to just copy paste, and that is not accurate. Your LinkedIn is supposed to be way more fluff than your actual resume. Your resume is supposed to be short, sweet, and tight, as I say, and it's supposed to just be very to the point. Now, when you look at my resume, let me pull it up real quick. And as Dan will show you,
Okay, let me
at the
pull
very top,
up.
at,
And by
at
the
the
way,
very, uh,
I'm doing, Julie, when the class is over, Julie will do your resume. If
mhm.
you intern in California when the things get back to normal, I will do your resume for you. But it's good to incorporate these things Ashley's saying right now. You should be doing your CV right now, okay, because you want to be applying right now, even during the class. Like your classmate, Joe, who shared with us a few weeks ago, he already got hired. He got hired in week 3. So he didn't wait for me or Julie to do their CV when the class is over in May, and then by the time you come intern in June or July. He did it and he got hired. So take this, I mean, you have like a quarantine right now. So you literally have nothing else to do, or you have more time now to work on your CV. So what Ashley's presenting is actually very timely and something that you can apply immediately. So I'm sharing Ashley's resume CV on the screen right now.
Mhm. Okay, so at the very top, first of all, you will see the first thing you will notice as I put clinical researcher. That is very important. It's known as a bulleting, not a bulleting, sorry, a bolding keyword. This is important for whenever you're applying to position. I do that as just kind of, a basic just to have it up there on top. But for the most part, if you're going for clinical research coordinator or CRA, it's important that you have that title of that position at the very top. This is AI identification. So if you are, applying to, for instance, CPD, where they have to sort electronically through multiple resumes at one time, you have a much higher chance of your resume making it to the top as opposed to others that assume that the rest of the resume speaks for itself when really you're trying to get the attention of the AI algorithm. So that's a very important point. And now going back to the personal branding, which is right under clinical researcher, this is my personal summary statement. So what I like to say is at the very beginning, you want to give one or two descriptions of who you are. For me, I say diligent and goal-driven. And my background is allied health professional. I feel that that kind of gives a good scope, and I feel like that also makes me look like a clinical background generalist, as Dan has said before, that journalism is a good thing right now, and I feel that that is a good title for me to utilize. And then I put with a 10-year track record in the clinical industry. If you have more than 15 years, it's important that you don't use a number. It's good to use more keywords like extensive or let me see. I have this actually pointed out on my phone because I want to make sure I give you good examples. Like significant or extensive instead of actual the number of the years. Why exactly that is, I'm not 100% sure. And as something I did not mention before, the information I'm giving to you right now was actually provided to me by a consulting resume and job recruiter specialist. So apparently they don't like to see any numbers after the 15-year mark. So of course that's completely up to your own discretion, but since that person was a specialist consultant, I tend to like to go with what they say. And so yeah, that's the first sentence. The second sentence is pretty much second sentence is just a description of, what I bring to the table, what I'm good at, and it's just a quick snippet summary of what I can actually do on the whole, and not specifically with the clinical industry or clinical research. So you can see that I put new ideas, concepts, strategies, and solving complex problems, strengths in analytical thinking, compliance and process improvement resolutions. And then I put strong planning and organizational skills and flexibility in dynamic environments. Um, Towards the end, what most people do put in will say, I'm looking to expand my skill set. I was told that to end your summary like that is makes you kind of look, basic, and also kind of makes it look in general like you're not necessarily unique. And the whole point of this personal branding is to pull in either the CEO of the or HR of the organization, or to pull in the recruiter to kind of make them want to read more further within your resume. So that's very important to take note of. So just definitely keywording and things like that. And as you look further down in my resume, you'll find my core competencies. This was also placed on my LinkedIn, and we'll go over that a little bit later in that section. If you can see, I have line brackets in between each wording. This again is for clean cut professional look, but also to help utilize keyword pickups for the AI algorithm. I use these words because I have the background in clinical operation, protocol, process improvement, good clinical practice, medical terminology, everything that's there. But also it's good to note that most of these things, if not all, will be popping up within the description of the job that I'm applying for. And that's what the AI algorithm is looking for. They're looking for the highest percentage of correlation that they can make with each resume, and apparently it numbers each resume according to how high it marks equivalent to the job description. So that's very important. Something that I would also say, like, if you have specific therapeutic areas, put that under your core competencies. And for mine, whether I tend to put it in my resume or not, up to my discretion, depending on where I'm applying to. But for my background, like, I have cardiology, surgery, pediatric, geriatric, emergency medicine, internal medicine, family medicine, home health. So that all right there is perfect because, not only if I'm applying to a position that is specializing within cardiology, pharmaceuticals, or biotech or something, that will definitely pop up. But I like to utilize sometimes all the other specialties because it lets them know that, again, I'm a generalist. Like, I've been on many, sectors of healthcare, but also I can probably bring in a different viewing perspective, which is, again, it's very helpful, and it gives you, I would say, brownie points for sure. If you have technical skills, do the same thing as well. Do bracket key line in between. So if you know multiple EMR systems or EDC systems, that's definitely helpful. And so do that as well, because if they're looking for, data management or, utilization of you within data management, while also, maybe doing clinical research coordinating, because I have came across positions that do that for smaller organizations, that will be very useful for you. And so that's definitely helpful. Another thing to look at is the placement, right, of how you put all of these subjects. So I would say that if you have a bachelor's already, because I know that not everybody has a bachelor's, because not all clinical research coordinators necessarily need a bachelor's. If you already have a bachelor's, I would definitely state to place your degree further up top if it's more specialized, like in a biochem or something that definitely stands out, like you have a biochemistry, a chemistry with, exposure to immunology, things like that. If it's kind of just basic general, like for mine, for instance, it's a Bachelor of Science, and I put it at the bottom because, it's just meeting a qualification from what I feel. But if it's something more specialized, then yeah, I definitely think that you should put it at the top, kind of shine some light on that to show how you stand out more than the average person that has just another Bachelor's of Science degree. If you do not have a bachelor's, definitely put your education at the bottom as well. And this depends on person-to-person basis, but I definitely say that it's important to put down, if you have some college experience, if it's further, a little bit more than an associate's, I say that it's good to put down the amount of hours you've accumulated so that actually is a talking point in your interview, and you can mention that, hey, yes, I have not completed my bachelor's, but I have this many hours. I do plan on going back and educating myself. If you do not plan on going back and educating yourself, you can use that as a point to say that, you would very much prefer to go into, if you're CRC, you're wanting to get your later get your CRA or certification or CRC certification. That's just a talking point. So I think that is crucial to utilize. Also, something that I forgot to mention at the very top of the header, you put your name, of course, and it's very important that you put your LinkedIn link. As I said again, your LinkedIn will be a big fluffer. So if they see that, it's going to tell them to, hey, I should go look at that. And from there, you'll have much more to show. For example, for me, as I want to make space on my resume and I don't want to overcrowd it and make it look somewhat unprofessional and cluttered, there I won't put down the certifications that I'm currently working towards. I'll only put down the ones that I've already finished. But if they go to my LinkedIn, I will have those certifications up and put down pending. So they'll at least know that I'm taking initiative and I'm still working towards an over-end goal, as opposed to just waiting around and just waiting for a job to pick me up so that I can then get the certification. And this works for you too, because if you're currently in a CRC or CRA academy, with Dan's Academy, you're currently working towards that. So you can put pending graduation. And, of course, place in your email, place in your phone number, make it, accessible for them to be able to contact you. And if you look further down, where we talk about licenses and certifications, this is very important to have at the very top, just with all the other sections as well, because remember, they're trying to move fast, and they are trying to find somebody that fits all the categories as quick as possible. So I like to put these at the top as opposed to putting them at the bottom after my job descriptions, because they already know you are applying because you meet some sort of criteria. And as they say, it takes, 10, 20 seconds that they review a resume before they reach out. So you know that they're really not going to read in full depth almost all the time. So the quicker and shorter you can make it easier for them, the faster that they're going to be calling you. So the license and certifications, I put that at the top. And as you can see, I have my data security and confidentiality, my research ethics training, and my physicist scribe. That's for medical transcription, medical terminology. So that already lets them know that I'm qualified. I know the language of the clinical background, and, I've done some research ethics training. So I'm meeting the scope of things. And so if you go further down into the job descriptions that we will cover, so if you can see, my resume definitely looks way different than some when it comes to the layout. It's very important that you put down, of course, the location of where you worked or previously worked, the time from when you worked it, and the title. But right under, it's important that you do a sentence to two sentences, preferably two, of an overall description of what you did, what comes for that job. And so that the rest of the bullet points can be very specific and very to the point of what you did. And so to say that, I would definitely say after doing the job description on a whole for summary, for the bullet points, you want to utilize positive output, such as, numbers, percentages. For me, I didn't use that because for this job that I'm currently doing and the ones prior, I didn't keep any documentation of that, unfortunately. But if you know that you did something really great to where you enhanced productivity by 45% or anything like that, you definitely want to utilize that information, because really most people, all they want is to know that they're bringing on people that can create productivity and create, just movements and somewhat of an innovation to their job position. So, and on top of that, the recruiters themselves are trying to pass you along through the hiring process. So they want to know that they're bringing in people that can actually show results. So that's, if you can show that, that would be great. And you want to keep the bullet points short and to the point. This is where I like to sometimes go and readjust my wording associated with the job I'm currently applying to. So, for instance, if you had a previous job in clinical operations management and you're applying to a clinical research coordinator position, you would say, okay, well, for clinical operations, I do a lot of overseeing, organizing, prepping, creating manuals, creating binders. If you want to do a CRC position and you have no experience, you can utilize that and say, well, um, I've created processes and standard SOPs, and I've helped utilize the doctor in creating an organization and going through dealing with patients and scheduling, all that stuff that is still somewhat within CRC scope. Just kind of reward it. Obviously, you're not going to lie and say that you did these jobs with CRC, but you're going to utilize what you've currently done and the experience that you have and find a way to link it towards the job that you're applying to. So that's definitely what I like to do. I don't think that it's good to just have a sample of your resume that looks really great, because most people do this, and then just apply and apply like crazy. Because yes, quantity is important, but quality overall is like the long-term goal, and if you can shoot out great quality resumes every time, I feel like you have a higher chance of getting, callbacks or, reviews and stuff. So if your resume is under 2 pages, I definitely would say, add in some extra specifics. Like for me, I do a current project with my job, and I feel it's essential. So I put that down there at the very bottom, tackle project, and I give the same description as the others. And then under my skills, I put something that's very important that I felt there wasn't a place that I could place in LinkedIn. So I put my 283 hours of shadowing specialty clinic and surgery, put down, my language and any other key skills that I didn't mention anywhere else. And so that's pretty much the scope of, my resume. But then when you go and look at my LinkedIn, for instance, let me just pull it up really fast.
If anyone has questions, let us know in the chat or just unmute yourself and speak
Mhm.
freely.
Yes. Actually, the LinkedIn is another subject, so I'll cover that right now. But yeah, that's the end of the resume portion. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to go right ahead.
Yep. Hi, Ashley. My name is
Hi.
Obina. I was about to mention LinkedIn, but
Hmm.
you just said that you're going to talk about it, so I'll just wait and see what you have to say about it.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Of course. Anybody else? No? Okay. All right. So now we'll go over the cover letter. The LinkedIn will be towards just after all the forms, I guess, that you would be sending to your application. So the cover letter that I have, the one I gave to Dan was kind of more watered down just because it had a lot of personal information on it. But definitely, you want to have a nice header, and I actually think it's important and professional looking when you kind of have some sort of similar layout from your resume to your references to your cover letter. And for me personally, each one has the same header. So if you want to incorporate that, for sure. I mean, a good keynote to remember is that, you want to look and be, since you're not able to sell yourself in person or over the phone at that moment, you want to present yourself over paper or over, electronic, uh, the professional that you would like to work with. So if somebody's applying to you and it doesn't look professional, it doesn't have a nice professional setup, naturally it's not going to bid you as well. And so this is why I do that. So just to take note of that. So for the cover letter, if Dan can pull that up, for the example, you will see that I have here. I'm sorry?
Yeah, I have the example cover letter up on the screen right now.
Okay, awesome. So, like I said, this is more of the watered down version, but just to kind of get an idea, this is actually one of my very first ones that I did, I think a few years ago, 5 years or so. So the intro, Definitely, you want to put in, the company's name, direct it directly to them or whoever it's directed to. If there's a recruiter or any information that's there, direct it to them. Um, the title and reasoning for applying. So you want to make it personable. So in the beginning, I put, I'm writing to express my interest in working for your company as an experience what my current position is, clinical data specialist. Um, I look forward to relocating and working with an organization whose purpose is geared towards providing better welfare to patients. For me, that right there, that is knowing that, whoever this company was, this was a healthcare company, right? Knowing that their company's stance was just on providing better welfare, like letting them know that we have a similar, approach to what we're looking for in, the workspace. And then the last sentence, you put the company's name, and this is where you make it personable. You take the company's name and you go and you do your research or due diligence on the company and look at their mission statement, their vision, things like that. And for instance, this company, their commitment, I would say, for instance, for example, Medtronic. Medtronic's commitment to enhancing the overall healthcare experience for patients throughout the world is one of the reasons why I am interested in working with this company. That kind of reels them in and lets them know that, okay, well, she's serious. She looked into this. This is our mission. It's our vision statement. What else do we have? The body is going to be a whole, what you bring, the amount of years that you have and what you bring to the table. You want to be short and concise as well. This is just kind of, the basic example. So I put that I have 4 years of experience, my acquired ability to multitask and prioritize my work, adapt to frequent changes and demands, put my background in pertaining to medicine and human anatomy. And obviously you can tell that I was much younger when I did this because this would be very clear when you see on my resume through my bachelor's, right? So you want, when you're doing these things and you're utilizing old forms that you had for such a long time, you want to make sure that you're removing information that's kind of not necessarily common sense, but a given, So obviously I have a background in medicine, human anatomy, and clinical documentation because, my resume shows all that. So you want to keep it more towards things that it's a storytelling of stuff that they don't already know. And at the end, I consider myself being self-driven, loyal, and team-oriented. And I believe this skill set will thrive in a driven environment such as Medtronics. And then you end it with, I'm keen to set forth working for an ambitious organization such as yours, put like a little compliment. And if you are currently, if you have work experience, I would say that you could also, under this paragraph, if you can shorten it and put some bullet points that are more specific to the job that is you are applying to, that would also be really good. For instance, in my more recent one, which I thought I had emailed that to you, Dan. I'm sorry about that. But my more recent one, I put in experience in consulting and coordinating with the healthcare team. There's obviously much more to that, but you're kind of just giving them a little bite so that it's a talking point in the interview. You can go in more detail with that, keep the conversation going. Another one is extremely adept at instructing individuals, families, and other groups on topics such as health education and disease prevention. Ability to assist in performing acute care procedures. Solid work experience and strong educational focus on clinical research and biological studies. Things that you're rewording, you're kind of honing in, and you're using strong words. It's showing that you feel confident and you're confident in doing this, and you'll be perfect for the job. And at the end, I like to leave a bullet point of, I possess excellent track record of professionalism and providing outstanding patient care. Just to kind of end it with a sweet spot because, everybody likes a professional. And if you're, whether research industry or clinical research industry or clinical industry, if you're dealing with patients, patient care is always top priority, right? So think about, how you're trying to reel them in with being specific to the job, but then end it with, I have everything you need. That really is the majority of what they would need for sure in that job. And then the ending, it's like the closing. You want to remind them, you want to thank them for having read everything, right? and you want to remind them, why you feel you fit perfect with that organization. Tell them that you're excited and you really can't wait to hear from them, right? Show enthusiasm. And then just, do the full blown last sentence with reminding them, to look back at your resume and to look at the information and how they can reach back out to you. And one big note, I feel like a lot of people close off their cover letter with, sincerely or kind regards and their signature, right? Via text or, not a text, but like a typed out version. If you can get an Adobe format signature and actually create an outline, like for instance, my e-signature that I provided them that we'll kind of cover right now, it shows professionalism, it shows them where you're currently at, and it shows that you're going above and beyond as opposed to the next person. And I think creating a professional signature with Adobe is a plus. I mean, if I received a cover letter from somebody, that would stand out to me a whole lot because it takes a minute or 2 minutes, but sometimes some people don't take that time to do a signature. So a little goes a long way, for sure, hands down. Does anybody have any questions?
Hi, Miss Margot. This is Darlene. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes. Hi, darling.
I just had a question concerning like
Mm-hmm.
the resume. So,
Yes.
what if in my case, like I've never had any kind of like medical background or like worked in like a
Mm-hmm.
medical field. So, how do I
Mm-hmm.
adjust my resume to I am currently doing dance class. So, how do I
Mm-hmm.
adjust my resume to kind of like fit the like let's say for example like a CRC job or
Mm-hmm.
to get into the field because I
Of
heard you
course.
say to have at least 2 pages, right? Or like to if
Mm-hmm.
your resume is less than 2 pages to try to add some things to make it to make yourself more like you did more, right?
Of course. Mm-hmm. Yes. So, something to mention here. One of my very first positions was in HR, and I had a really great mentor there that I kind of still utilize some of her ideas to this day. It so first of all, don't worry if you have no clinical background. Of course, it's a plus, but doesn't mean that you won't stand out. Really, what matters is how you word things. Like I can tell you right now that since when you're going through the academy, you're already you're already becoming qualified, right? One, and so you don't necessarily have to sell yourself on that end because just showing that you are currently doing the academy, they're knowing that you're covering all the basics and all the requirements and everything needed to know and to do the job. So this, I would say, because you have that advantage, right? Like for me, for instance, I have a clinical background, but I'm not doing this academy right now. So I actually have to sell myself, which sounds kind of, funny, right? But if I were to be going up against you, for instance, for a clinical research coordinator, and I honestly think this is the truth, if I had to go up against you, I would have to sell myself that much more. Why? Because you're already getting trained for that specific job, and you can utilize your background in dance to enhance your ability to do the job. For instance, someone can say that it's very difficult to teach dance. You have to hone into everybody's different learning styles and you have to find the best way to teach them. That is perfect background to be a leader or a clinical research coordinator and for CRA, because you have to look and analyze very closely to different individuals. In this case, it would either be sites or your current site. So really, I think it's just sitting down with yourself, looking at what it is that you do and how you can utilize those skills for the job that you're trying to apply to. I think a lot of people get intimidated because, they're like, oh, well, I have no experience in this. It's like, no, I mean, you definitely have a lot that you can bring to the table. It's just giving yourself the credit that is due and knowing how to talk about it in a way that works with the job that you're applying to. And so, you will definitely bring a different perspective to, to the table for sure. And if I had to hire, if I knew that they already had all the skills based off of the education, I would look at everything else as a plus and actually find it interesting to have somebody like that working with me and that I could just communicate with on a personal level. So you have a lot more working for you than you probably think. So um, definitely showing. So if you don't have any certifications at the moment, if you have already done some through the academy, put that under licenses and certifications because that's already going to sell you a little bit. And then if you feel you don't have a full-page resume, that's also totally fine. I say at that point, if there's not a whole lot of fluff, put down that you are currently working, currently doing the organization, put in progress, right, instead of an actual date. And then use, the rest of everything else from your dance and all of that, kind of fluff it more on your LinkedIn. So really just taking a look at what you bring to the table and figuring out what is important from that you can put on your resume and what is all the extra that you can put on your LinkedIn. And on the LinkedIn, I can definitely go over how you can go into more detail and explain, like for instance, in the summary on the LinkedIn, you can say that you're bringing your your way of utilizing dance and teaching dance and working together as a whole with people and helping people, and you're wanting to bring that and that experience into the new industry that you currently wanted to get into. Like there's different ways you could do it. So, but once we get to that section, for sure, I will cover that and hopefully shed some more light in ways that you could maneuver. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah. Yes,
um,
it does. Thank you so much.
you're welcome. Does anybody have any other questions? Okay, awesome. So let's see what's next. All right. So the next section is just pretty much the whole thing is about applying, right? So I'm going to cover search engines and how you can maximize your output. So first of all, definitely recommend LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter, Indeed, Glassdoor. But most of all, what I've been utilizing more often now, and thanks to Dan, is clinicaltrials.gov. And actually, this was when you posted about this, Dan, I was like super grateful because some of the ways that I had gotten my 283 hours of shadowing when I was in college was really just calling a bunch of clinics on repeat. And, obviously don't do this, but I kind of bugged the managers a lot. And until they finally got a hold of the doctors and I was allowed in, and that's, how the story went. So clinicaltrials.gov was kind of an example of that. And I went straight for it, and I've been making some contacts, and it's definitely been helping me. So everybody, make sure you utilize that website.
Yeah, how has that been
So
working, actually? Like, clinical
it's
trials.
a
So, like,
it's
what is your typical response? Let's say for every 100 emails you send out, what are you getting back?
I would say about, I mean, not everybody, like for instance, they'll kind of have like a manager's name up or somebody that's, running it. Not every time will it be that actual person. So I'm assuming they have like an assistant or somebody helping them with their emails. But for the most part, I've been shooting out, I would say, about a day, 20 to 30. And so like maybe in a week I'll get back about 10, which that's great, honestly, because I used to make calls back then.
Very good.
I'm a very persistent person, as you know. So I was very surprised at how much response I had. Because back then when I used to call, I would barely even get any responses, and I mean I didn't care. I kept going at it until I got what I wanted, really. But yeah, just the emails definitely. And it doesn't take a long time. You can make one very nice generalized email, and then just go down the list and shoot them out like crazy, And it just takes a little bit of time. Designate some time to the side, and I actually do it in the morning when I have my tea, when I'm already just kind of sitting around. So we might as well utilize that time and make it productive, right? So what you do with your time can either set you back or put you forward, right? So right now, because I have all this extra time, I am making use of it as much as possible. And so, yeah, that website is great. So these five ways of maximizing, I would call search engines, right? But LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter, Indeed, and Glassdoor, aside from clinical trials, as y'all already know, just by looking at Dan's video, these are the ones that are a bit different, obviously, because you have to go in, make your profile. What most people do, what I used to do, for instance, with Indeed and ZipRecruiter, I actually wouldn't really make my full profile. I would just utilize it and start searching for jobs. That's the big no-no. You want to put your resume in there, and if they give you the option to actually put it in yourself as opposed to uploading your resume, I would highly recommend it because they have their own AI algorithm. And from what I was told by the consultant, that if you put it in manually, that it actually has a stronger response. So I actually put this to the test when I was with the consultant, working with her for the past like 2-3 months, because I was working with her for a good while. We had a lot of things to fix. And the minute that I did that, I started getting recruiters reach out to me via Indeed and Glassdoor. It was insane. I was having to decline some because people that jobs that I wasn't even looking for were coming to me and saying, you are a perfect fit. Let me know if you'd like this. Let me know if you'd like this, which, I mean, is great, right? It builds up the morale for yourself. It builds up the confidence. And that's really what you need while you're applying because, you know, if you don't take rejection well, or if you don't take, you know, the fact that nobody's reaching out well, you know, you still want some good feedback, right? So I think that is very important and crucial for you to do. So LinkedIn, as you said, I will go over that, but ZipRecruiter, Indeed, and Glassdoor for sure. Make sure you do that and create your own profile. You'll be getting emails weekly, daily. I pick for daily, so that keeps me busy. I have a time slot for my day just to go through each one of those. And also, you know, even if you're not looking for those positions, if you know of somebody, especially right now in these times where there's, you know, people that are getting laid off in other industries, you know, if you have friends, you know, you can just pass that along. You know, it helps, and it makes you feel good, and just a good thing to do. So another thing to note is when you are doing these profiles, they ask you for, you know, job notifications. And the most basic not basic, but the most typical you would put would be CRC, Clinical Research Coordinator, CRA. But, you know, if you've watched Dan's videos, and if you have not, go and watch them, he talks about different types of jobs, different types of job descriptions. I mean, when I first watched Dan's videos back in, I think, October, November, I realized how many positions there really were out there. And then when I started doing my own research, there was even more than what Dan had mentioned on his videos, and I was freaking out. I was like, man, I'm missing out on so much opportunity here just because I didn't take the time prior to that to find this out. So I would say for sure, you know, if you're not, I mean, obviously you want to be Clinical Research Coordinator or CRA, but if you are just willing to just get your foot in the door, go in, research, get on each one of these, you know, search engines and put in these titles, Clinical Research Coordinator, and you'll come up with a variety, like project coordinator, which is also kind of planned from some of these organizations. It's also a Clinical Research Coordinator, but they just put project coordinator. One of the jobs that I applied to that I had went almost to the very last interview with the hiring manager, they had their job description under Clinical Research Coordinator, but when I went in for the interview, it was actually pretty much a CRA position with a sponsor. So wording is everything, and I've applied to some that are worded different than the actual title that I would give it, right? So do that, take some time, do your due diligence, and look at the different titles that are out there and apply. So, and save that on your job notifications. I swear you will be busy every day going through multiple opportunities, and that will sets you aside for sure on the path to success for that. Um, Another thing to mention, once you have your interviews and all of that, or even if you don't, right, you want to stay organized. This is super important. I actually, I learned this the hard way. Luckily, it didn't get me into a bad situation, but I mean, I had applied to so many places within, I think, a week span. I think I could honestly say over 50. I applied a lot. And I didn't write all of them down. I kind of just saved them on my email. But, some organizations hire for multiple positions. I did not keep, a good tally of this on a paper or my notebook. And so when I got reached out by a recruiter, she was asking me questions, and I was under the impression it was one job, but it ended up being another job. And she corrected me, but we ended up, I made a joke and we laughed it off. And she, I said, well, at least I'm a hard worker, and I'm doing my best to make opportunities happen. And I put some light on it to kind of stray away from the fact that I didn't realize what job we were talking about. But yeah, you definitely don't want to be in a situation like that. It could make you look bad. So be extremely organized. And say if you do speak with the recruiter and have a screen calling, you want to do follow-up emails, right? And document those emails the day, because recruiters, especially right now, are very busy. So I'm sure right now they wouldn't mind consistently connecting with them, but say on a regular time, not COVID-19 time or recession time, recruiters don't like you to be constantly on a daily contacting them, especially after they've told you that they'll reach out. So from what the consultant told me, she said that every 4 days to a week, send an email for 2 weeks. And then after that, if you have no responses, call and leave a voicemail. But at that point, let that be the last point of connection that you make with them. If there is no response, you did everything you could, and just keep moving and keep connecting with different recruiters. So that's pretty much for that section as far as search engine and maximizing your output that I could give you. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Now to speak on recruiters. So this is where you want to utilize LinkedIn heavily, because I've ZipRecruiter, Indeed, and Glassdoor and all that. I don't really use that as much for networking. LinkedIn is really my go-to. If you're already utilizing LinkedIn, you already know that there's a network section. So what I do actually to maximize the amount of visual that I can see, I made sure that I only added people that, of course, knew me work-wise, but I also wanted just to add recruiters and organizations that I'd like to work for. And so what I did is there's a section, if you go through the networking, they'll give you a section from where your school's at, people from your school, where your education was, people from your previous work jobs and all of that. I like to keep it to just the clinical research industry, just because this is like Facebook. The more people you have on there, the more clouded your feed's going to be, and you can possibly miss an opportunity that was posted. So I keep it very professional and try not to keep family and things like that on there, just for that sake. I mean, of course, it's to each his own, but that was, for me, this is purposely just to further my career, right? So I added organizations, I added workers, CRAs, CRCs, specialists, even people that are retired, because they have probably bigger networks. As I'm going out and adding these people, I'm reaching out to them. I'm asking them, hi, do you have do you know of any recruiters or any organizations I should look into? I also utilize this, Dan's LinkedIn to go through his connections and find the recruiters and people that he connects with. And then it's like a tree, you find one person, you go through their connections, and then you go through those people's connections, and soon enough you have this massive network building block on your feed. And that's what's happening with my feed right now. I mean, I can literally go on LinkedIn and scroll only twice, and I've already seen at least 12 job postings. Like that's how well that worked for me, you know. And so if you can do that, especially right now if you're currently looking, definitely do that. It's helped so much. I've even helped my friends find jobs. Like I have a friend that's been looking for work for 6 months. There was a recruiter that posted up. I sent him that screenshot, and he already has a call for Monday, which is crazy, you know. But that's the beauty of it. And if you strategically utilize it the right way, it won't be hard for you to get a hold of recruiters. I've only been applying since December, and I started getting a bunch of hits towards the end of January up to now, and I've had multiple interviews, and it's all because of these things that I'm sharing with you right now. So definitely utilize that and do as much as you can to just keep it professional so that you can maximize the amount of visual that you get on the recruiter's postings. Any questions? No? Okay. Oh, and one last one. If there's specific organizations, go look up those organizations and then find the people within your state, because they sometimes have a section there where you can look up employees and choose your state, and then from there all the employees will pop up, and you'll find the recruiters for that state. And that's actually something that I've utilized. So all the recruiters that I have are actually just geared towards Texas. Those are the ones that are posting on my feed. So, you know, that's definitely a little niche there that I don't think a lot of people utilize either. So just to make note of that. Okay, and so let's see. Also, for Dan to post up the email signature. So if you can see that, let's see, it's my e-signature. Make sure to have one on your email. Not everybody has one. It's important that you do. That's my personal email if you ever want to email me. That's not my phone number. Just it's a fake phone number. But just so you get an example, definitely put down the time the time zone you are in if you are looking at remote jobs or considering to go somewhere else. It's so much easier for the recruiter. You're making things so much easier for them. And when I worked in HR, I remember, you know, them always talking about, oh, you know, I have to go out of my way. I need to call this person. I need to get a hold of them. And now they're making my process longer, you know. So everything you do, you want to make sure you give them ample time. And as you can see at the very bottom, I have this thing where if you hover over, it says LinkedIn. If you click on it, it actually, well, I don't think the one that Dan has, it has to be on my actual email. But if you click on it, it takes you straight to my personal LinkedIn. So, for instance, if you're going through clinicaltrials.gov, right, and you're not even speaking with the recruiter, you're just saying, hi, my name is da-da-da, you know, I'm looking, this is my background. If you have any availability, let me know. I'm happy to send you my resume. And if you'd like, please click at my LinkedIn box at the bottom, and you can have a personal view of my LinkedIn profile. This lets them not have to make it personable and reach out to you directly. They can go straight to your LinkedIn, save them time. If they like it, they'll reach out, you know, as opposed to them having to reach out, hope that they like whatever you provide them. Like, this just saves so much time. It's just so much more efficient. And when I put, let's talk clinical research with the next submission point, it makes me look enthusiastic. It lets them know that I love clinical research and that I really, really want to talk about it, and that I'm not just asking them to give me something. I'm happy to discuss anything. And that makes you personable, and you want to be personable. Also, again, it shows you that you can be trusted and that you're professional, and that speaks words, levels in itself. So always have an email signature. Lastly, you know, follow-up interview template. There's hundreds of samples online, but I can't stress this enough. Telephone or in-person interview emails afterwards, thanking them for their time, right? Reminding them why you felt. Thanking them for the time, reminding them that you really want this position, explaining a specific crucial point that you covered in the interview that you feel directly works towards that job that they're trying to hire for, and then, ending it with, I'd love to continue talking about this. Please, again, reach out, and then thank you again, and then, your ending email signature. Following up with that is so important, especially if you made an impression. It just shows them that you're thankful for them, considering you. So, I'm sure most of you know this already, but just, as a reminder. Dan, I know we're at 11:07. I feel bad I haven't even gone to LinkedIn part. Is this okay? The timing?
Yeah, it's great. Just as long as it takes.
Okay, awesome. All right. You know what? I sent you my references, and I didn't put a section here. Not much to say if you just want to pop it up so I can just show them what I meant about the professionalism of the references. These are all edited examples of my references, but as you can see, it has their name, their position, their title position, the organization that they're working for, the address, the phone number, and their personal email. Again, this already sending this with your application saves the recruiter time and energy and just all of that, and they're grateful for this. So, and plus it looks extremely professional. A lot of people do not have the references listing like this or organized at all. So, yeah, just, to take note of this and have all of this ready whenever you apply out and they ask for your CV and your cover letter. They'll also have a section for you to add any extra information. I always put in my references. And we're not talking about it here, but I already have recommendation letters. I would highly recommend that if you have recommendation letters, also add that in there. It saves time. It makes, if they're really interested, they can, get confirmation about how good of a worker you are with the recommendation letters you already provide. So that's just a big deal. So don't forget that. And lastly, let's go to LinkedIn. Okay. Let's see. All right. So if you can see at the very top of my LinkedIn, I have my name, my BS degree, but also under there, notice that I don't have my title, right? Clinical data specialist. Remember, LinkedIn is just a massive AI algorithm, so you do not want to have clinical data specialist. That's going to keep recruiters from having you pop up on their feed. So if a recruiter puts in clinical research, good clinical practice, clinical operations, or EDC, or anything like that, your name and your profile is going to pop up. The minute that I made this change, it made a huge difference, and I had recruiters contact me within the week. It was a huge deal. And as you know, towards the bottom, it'll give you an option. I don't know if y'all can see this, but whenever you are actually creating your profile, it has a section to open job opportunities. You want to put in the different, I think they only give you 3 or 4 options, but you want to put in the job titles that you're also considering. So that also gives a notification to the recruiters of your area of expertise that you are looking for. Also, a lot of people do not fill in every section of your LinkedIn. It's crucial that you do that, just because from what the consultant told me was that the less amount that you have completed on your profile, and it'll give you kind of like a bar showing you where you're at on completion, the less that you have on your profile, it's not as strong when it comes to showing up on the recruiter's feed. So you want to make sure you complete all sections, at least with one thing. And also, the background photo, it makes you more personable. It kind of gives you more of a link to the area that you specialize in, and it just, gives you more personality. A little goes a long way, so I definitely would look that up. You can Google LinkedIn background photos, and there's multiple free ones, and just kind of put in the keywords, clinical research or medicine or however it is that you want to put, and kind of choose several, and then go in there and adjust, because not all of them fit and not all of them look nice. So you go down and you go to my About section. This is the one where I told you where it's more detailed oriented, more fluff. And so you want to do paragraphs. There's people that have just like this massive just paragraph. You don't want to do that. You want to have a storytelling. It's easier on the eyes for the recruiters, and also it makes them, as they're going down, it makes them want to read more. So the very first paragraph, you're going to give them a little bit about yourself. And so for me, I put, after graduating with my bachelor's in biology, I could only think about being an instrumental participant at the front lines of innovative clinical research, because that's honestly the truth. If, you're in a different sector, you're not, in science, or you're not in clinical industry, just find out, think about it for a minute about why it is that you wanted to get into clinical research industry, how that, kind of correlates to what you're currently doing, and how you feel it'll move you forward in that industry, and what you can bring. And then I continue to aspire in engaging with like-minded individuals and represent organizations whose purpose, whose pursues the same goals, which is also very true. So that is just a really quick, small biopsy of who you are, why, and like what are you necessarily looking for. And this makes you personable, because you're not saying I'm trying to look for a job. You're just saying I just want to connect with people that are in the same space as I am, or in the same area, or looking to get into the same area. I just want to make connections. So it makes you look genuine, right? The second paragraph is like, I have a 10-year track record of success in clinical industry, 2 years in clinical research, experience and trained in this, and this, right? Specific, straight to the point. And the next, I'm talking about what I'm recognized for in my work, right? And so a little detail about my specific work background and what I bring to the table. And this is, again, where you see my core competencies. So if they've already seen my resume, they're getting reminded again why I'm a good applicant. And at the very end, this is crucial. Your ending needs to be nice and personable. So I put, I would love to speak to you about clinical research, and I'm very accessible and can be reached out at any time, blah, 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 and I look forward to our conversation. So you're just saying, hey, I don't need a job, but I would like one, or I would like to speak to you about possible opportunities in the future, or just talk about, your area of work. And, because you can just gain anything from anybody with just a conversation, right? And as you go down, you'll see my experience, all of that. One thing to know, the consultant did say that she feels it's easier on the eyes, and it's nicer that the description on LinkedIn for each job is done more in story format. So if you want, just add me on my network, and you can review how I went about, documenting that, and then just kind of get that as an example, and then go through your own stuff, and just document it accordingly on LinkedIn. And let's see, lastly, one thing to note on your education, do not put the time frames or the dates. The consultant told me that if you put down the daytime, that kind of gives them an average of your age, and you don't want them to do that, because some recruiters can possibly, may be discriminative depending on, when the degree was done and all of that, whether you were newly graduated or not newly graduated. So there's no need for that. You don't have to put down the dates. Just put down that you have that degree, or that you're in progress of that degree or certification. As you look further down, my licenses and certifications, and you can even click on the show more part, you'll see all the ones that I currently have at the very bottom, right? But then those at the top I have in progress, right? So those are what I'm currently working at as of right now, during this downtime. But it looks good. It lets them know that, you don't need to wait for a job to be told what to do. You already know what you want, and you're doing everything you can just to get into that field. So it shows initiative and, just determination on a whole. If you have volunteer experience, make sure that if it's older than a year to 2 years, that it's actually something that is really viable towards what you're trying to go for. So for instance, it's been a while since I've volunteered, and I had multiple experiences that were really great, but the only one that I felt that was linked more towards the job that I was looking for was when I did donation coordinator, and also because of what it did. Like it We helped donate 700 dental hygiene supplies to Peru, families in Peru. So that's a pretty out of the scope thing. It's not the usual, you know, feast of sharing and stuff like that. It's very different. So I kept that one there. And your skills and endorsements. This is where I say, go crazy and literally put in everything that everything that is even outside the scope of your degree or outside the scope of your previous work experience that you learned on your own. This is a place where you can really shine. So don't be modest, go out there and go crazy, really. The same thing with accomplishments for the courses, the organizations that you did. If you have not became a member of SOCRA or ACRP, I highly recommend you do so. You have access to so many things on their websites as a member. And also, if you saw those certs that I had that are in progress, when you get with SOCRA as a member, I believe it's $75 a year, but you get those 4 certs for free with the city organization. So really it's perfect, if you don't have those certs, get the organization membership, which already looks good just for having it, and then you get these four free certs, and you're building up your LinkedIn, your profile, your credibility. It looks really, really good, and it's showing that you're going out of your way to further your knowledge, because through those organizations you have access to free courses, free updates, information. You have access to people from all over the world that have been doing this job for years. And so network, and they talk on those forums a lot. I mean, I get daily updates of topics that are happening, and so I could not stress that enough. And I believe that is everything. Lastly, recommendations. If you know anybody, go give them recommendations on their profiles. Say nice things, and you can even request a recommendation. The stronger that you can make your LinkedIn, the better. Unfortunately, that is one area that I have kind of been slacking on. I did about 3, but then I stopped. But still, I think it's very important. So when you get a chance, do it. But yeah, I mean, I feel that I covered as much as I possibly could in the time period that we have. But I hope that this is helpful, you guys. And if you can, ask me questions. Oh, sorry, one last thing. Be active. The more active you are, it shows for the recruiters, and also you're constantly popping up on people's feeds. So even though you do not speak with them directly, you are becoming, you kind of unsubconsciously being an active person within their profile, right? So especially if they're active and constantly looking at their board and feed. So you'll get more people to respond to your posts. That's ways of connection. Dan is always posting all the time. I'm not surprised he has multiple connections, because I mean, that's really the way you do it. So yeah, I believe that was the last of it. Any questions?
Just a comment. This is wonderful. Thank you, Ashley.
Yeah,
You're welcome. And I'm so glad that I could help you guys. And again, I am always on here. Feel free to message me or email me with any questions. I do not mind at all. I mean, I won't necessarily respond right away, but I mean, I've been there, and I'm currently there, right? But I've been there to where I had no idea about any of these things. I had 10 years of experience looking for jobs, and it wasn't until recently that I felt like I'm actually maximizing my potential. So definitely, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help. And Dan, if you need me to do this again or do something similar or whatever, you have me.
We're doing it again.
For sure.
I just, as you were talking, endorsing you for skills, and I'm gonna recommend you on LinkedIn. Um,
Yay.
but I think you need to add now a new title, which would be
Really?
CRA Academy instructor. So we will do this regularly going forward.
Awesome. Yeah.
For that.
For sure. And also, just because of the time frame, I actually have so much more detailed backing on personal branding. So, I mean, if we wanted to do something like that, we could totally do it. That course is a little bit more interactive for sure. So, um, you know, that's something I probably would have to figure out. But I mean, I these things are very crucial. Personal branding, I think, did a number for me, to be quite honest. So, I mean, if you want to go over that too, we can definitely go over that too. I'm happy to help, and I just want to do what I can to, do my part in helping people right now in this time.
Yeah, that's really good. So we'll have
Hmm.
you just update your LinkedIn, and then I can do a recommendation for you on there. And anyone else who gets
Awesome. Thank you.
hired, you're welcome. I mean, we have students that have gotten hired, come back and do guest lectures like Ashley today, like Monica, who's going to be um, presenting next week, I think. And just
Hmm.
a lot of your former classmates or people from classes before you coming back whenever. And we can always update your LinkedIn profile to show CRA Academy instructor as well. So it's open to everybody. And thank you again, Ashley, for this. And thank
For
you,
sure.
everybody else. And if there's no more questions, um, people can contact Ashley on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
And I think I saw your phone number on the resume too.
Yeah. Oh yes. Oh my God. I didn't. That's my personal phone number. Yes.
Yep.
I didn't. I didn't even realize it was there. But yeah, if you want to call me, go for it. I would actually say text me first, just so that I know to answer. But for sure, LinkedIn. I really don't mind. Go ahead and reach out at me in any way that works for you best.
So we don't put this on YouTube. You
Oh,
want?
the resume. No, no, no. You know what? That's perfectly fine. No worries,
All right.
honestly. I mean, that's how I got a hold of Victoria Welsh and Bench Academy, so I'm totally fine with that.
Okay. All right. Good stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I
Awesome.
will. Anybody can reach out to Ashley, and then we'll end this session. But thank you very much, Ashley.
For
Very
sure.
important, and we'll look forward to everybody out
Great.
there.
Also, well, thank you, Dan, and thanks everybody, and till next time.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.